Well, welcome everyone to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. I'm Bart Berger, and I'll be your host for this edition of the Bowling University Profit Break. Thank you all for joining us. Our mission here at the university is to enrich people's lives personally and professionally, and the Profit Break is an excellent opportunity for sharing insights on how to grow revenue, reduce costs, enrich yourself, your team, and your business. Now, if you're joining the Profit Break for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes and you'll be well on your way to improving your profitability. Now, today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Sam Glenn. Now, at one time, Sam was homeless, depressed, defeated, and just negative about everything. Now, it was a chance encounter at a buffet where Sam accidentally knocked over legendary Zig Ziglar. This led to a positive friendship between the two, and with Zig's encouragement, Sam got his life pointed in the right direction. Now, today, Sam Glenn is one of the most recognized and trusted motivational speakers today in America. Now, we're fortunate that he will be with us as our keynote speaker in Savannah for this coming January for our 2023 Bowling Summit. Sam, welcome. Thank you so much for carving some time out to be with us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Bart.
Yeah, now we're excited about having you in January. Want the folks to learn a little bit about you. Let's start off with the big elephant in the room. Tell us about your chance encounter with the legend Zig Ziglar. Did you really knock him over at a buffet?
Yeah, a lot of people, when they come up to me after a speech, they're like, well, you look bigger up close. And, from far away, I don't look that big, but I am the size of an NFL lineman who is retired and loves snacks. That's what I tell people. But I guess they brought out the bacon. I got a little excited. I turned and I knocked this gentleman over, and his feet went up in the air, and it wasn't pretty. But when I helped him up, he was very gracious about the experience, and he went on the other side of the buffet line because he felt that would be safer. And we talked the whole way through the buffet line. And when we got to the end of the buffet, he invited me to have my meal with he and his wife, who he fondly called the redhead. And, I went to go eat with him, and probably 5 minutes into the meal, there was a moment of awkwardness because I looked on the other side of the restaurant and there was my family. They were all looking at me. So my brother came over and he said, Sam, what are you doing? And I said, look, I knocked this guy over really hard. I don't want him to press charges, so I'm trying to smooth things over, so I'm eating my meal with him. But little did I know, I had no idea who he was. But he became a good friend, a mentor, and what I refer to as a real-life superhero. And I believe we need those throughout our whole life. So we didn't hang out at buffets together, but we sure shared a lot of coffee and good discussions together.
Yeah, what a chance encounter and a wonderful opportunity for you. And that led to, kind of this point in time where we are now. Actually, in reading one of your books, I read that at one time you were terrified to speak in public. Given what you do, how is that even possible?
Well, I love it now. A lot of people ask me, what are you most afraid of about public speaking? And usually it might be a technical thing. So if the microphone doesn't sound right, or it could be maybe I'm afraid I have something in my teeth or hanging from my nose or my zippers down. But now I definitely look forward to it. But when I was in college, I was so afraid of public speaking that I took zeros and Fs whenever a speech was required. And I just didn't like the feelings and the sensations and the fear and the sweaty palms. And so I took zeros and Fs, and I'll never forget one of the guys I played college basketball with. He fainted during a business speech. He hit his head on the desk. He passed out for like 30 minutes. And I remember the whole time as we're waiting for the ambulance thinking, see, I'll never public speak. And I kind of made the situation a little bit worse, Bart, because as we're waiting, I poured water on his pants, if that gives you any idea to my maturity level. And everybody asked me, because I was a pre-med major for a day, they're like, is this going to help him? And I was like, no, but it'll be funny when he wakes up and we tell everybody he wet his pants. We tried to keep it light. But it was the first time I ever saw my professor laugh. But the whole journey to public speaking started when I started volunteering with young people. And one night they asked me, Sam, they said, the speaker's not here. Could you get up and just share an encouraging message? And even though I was scared, I stepped out of the comfort zone. I did the best I could with where I was skill-wise. And it wasn't the most spectacular speech, but afterwards, everybody kept coming up saying, boy, that was so encouraging. I needed to hear that. And right there is what I fell in love with. And from there, I started the journey to where I am now.
Yeah, amazing. Now, besides being a sought-after speaker today, you are the author of 30-plus books, which I find absolutely amazing there. Where did that passion for writing come from, and what are some of your favorites?
Well, Mr. Ziglar, he used to say every now and then we get this thing, even the best of us get this thing called stinking thinking. And he said we have to take time out to do what he called a little checkup from the neck up. And Mr. Ziglar, he told me, Sam, I read on an average of 3.5 hours every day. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of reading. But when a legend passes that kind of wisdom on to you, I wasn't a big reader. So I started reading a little bit, positive quotes, leadership quotes. And then really, I didn't have the TV or internet because I was homeless, sleeping in the back of my '82 Buick Regal, and all I had were books. And so as I read these books, that input, it started getting in my system, affecting my attitude and my just how I felt about life. And I noticed that it started coming out. And so progressively through the years, the experiences that I've been through, really, my books are just my notes. How I found resilience to get through a tough moment, or how I handled a moment of conflict. In 2020, I wrote a book, Keep Your Head Up, because there were so many things that just, it was just a weight that caused people to just look down, think down and feel down. And so just every experience throughout the years, I've just taken the notes, the things that I've learned, and try to share that through others. I just kind of dress them up and call them a book.
Yeah, it feels like you're taking the spoken word and putting it in written form so others can share that information as well.
Yeah, there's only so much you can share in a speech. And today on the internet with social media, there's just so much out there. But because I enjoy reading good books, and books have changed my life and been a source of putting me in the right direction and helping me through challenging moments, I've tried to document those same things. And I figure if it'll help me, it'll help somebody else. So whether one person gets a book or 100,000 get a book, if it helps one person, that's what it's all about.
Good. So I don't want to give away too much. You're going to be joining us in January in beautiful Savannah for our event. We're excited about having you. But can you share a little bit about kind of what you're going to be covering with us during your time?
No, I can't, Bart. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. I'm going to share some fun ideas that are, that affect us both personally and professionally. And the whole concept of my talks are about thinking better, because when we think better, we do better. We're better people to be around. We lead better. We handle conflict better. So it's really about thinking better. And sometimes we just need a moment to recharge, refocus. And as I like to tell event planners, reconnect to the things that matter most, like our purpose. Sometimes with all the stress and the pressures and everything going on, we become disconnected from our purpose, and then we lose that joy in the work that we do. So we're going to create a connection there. And so those of you watching this, you might see behind me some artwork. I'm in my art studio today. I'm dressed like a champion, but I'm going to paint for you guys. I'm sure you've seen speed painters that when they paint really fast, you lose your deposit within 5 minutes. Well, I'm not going to do that. I kind of do it differently. I paint like Bob Ross. So we're going to have kind of a Bob Ross experience. We're going to laugh. We're going to connect. And we're just going to have a great time.
Yeah, well, I know it's going to be fun. Our folks are going to enjoy it. They're going to want to be here. So you mentioned some things. Obviously, you've been speaking on this topic of attitude for quite some time. How has the recent events we've been through, this pandemic, this once-in-a-lifetime thing, how has it or has it changed this topic and what you talk about?
You know, what's interesting is that for years, people have kind of previewed attitude as a soft skill. And I often tell people that there's no such thing as soft skills. We get that kind of terminology when people, you know, you get a group of people, they get a grant and they do research. And then at the end of the research, they're at Applebee's drinking margaritas, eating riblets. And they're like, well, we got to give this thing a name. And so let's call it soft skills. But really, our attitude is not a soft skill. It's a human skill. It's a life skill. And the one thing that I've discovered is that everything follows our attitude. So when we choose an attitude that works for us, we make choices that work for us. When we choose an attitude that works against us, we make choices that work against us. And what the pandemic taught me is that it kind of elevated our awareness of what it means to be resilient, but also how to make the best of what isn't the best. The best example I can give you is we were planning a trip to Walt Disney World. We had been planning it for a whole year. And I have 3 kids under the age of 8. So imagine for a whole year, you're getting your kids excited for Disney World. I was getting excited for Disney World. And then the pandemic happened. And try explaining to 3 kids that we're not going to Disney World now. We can't go to Disney World. And in that moment, you know, their little hearts were broken for a moment, but, you know, we thought this is an opportunity to be resourceful and creative. We don't have the best of what we want, but with our attitude, we can make the best of what we want. So instead of going to Disney, we came up with an idea. Why don't we bring Disney to our home? And so for 4 weeks, each of us got to pick a Disney theme, and we got a Disney movie. We decorated the house in the Disney theme. We made fun food. And my kids will grow up and they'll always remember the experience of bringing Disney to our home. And we made it special. And that's the thing. It's truly about attitude. You can complain about it, or you can, you know, kind of grab it by the horns and make the best of it, do something about it. So that's kind of what I got from the pandemic.
No, I love that. I love that example. And you know what? That's probably going to be one of the most memorable vacations they have ever in their lifetimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, speaking of parenting, I too am a parent, but I'm now an empty nester. But I remember the painful days in parenting when my girls were young, and made the famous statement of all parents: "You better change your attitude." Right? But the reality is that the only person that can change their attitude is yourself, right? I mean, why is that? What's the phenomenon behind that? Why is the only person that can change their attitude is your own?
Well, I get a lot of people who will come up to me after a speech and be like, boy, I wish so-and-so or my husband or wife or somebody would have been here because they need an attitude change. And ultimately what we learn is that attitude is a choice. It's a personal choice. Some people have an awareness to their attitude and others don't. A lot of people see it as something as positive or negative, and it's really so much more than that. Your attitude will either be your greatest asset or your biggest liability, and ultimately you have to have that awareness. But the best way to change somebody else's attitude around you that I have found is that you have to be the example of the attitude that you want to see in others, or you want them to adopt. I often tell leaders, whatever attitude you demonstrate, others around you will replicate. And that's how we influence attitude. And so with my kids, yeah, there's days that they don't have the best attitude, and there's days where I'm like, you need to change your attitude. But instead of arm wrestling with them about it, I try to be the best example so they watch dad, learn from dad, and implement what dad taught them. And that's how we influence attitudes around us, is trying to be that example. But ultimately, it's a personal choice. A person has to be willing to change their attitude in order to change their way.
Yeah. Well, I love that. It is a personal choice. So, Sam, before we let you go today, we got time for one more question before we wrap up. I know in your book you talk about some stress reduction tips. Anything you can just kind of share with the audience today, the viewers, that any quick tips on having a bad day? What do I do to reduce stress?
Well, there's a couple things you can do, Bart. I'm going to share my two favorite. Number one, go for a walk. Just go for a walk, or just get outside, sit outside, get around nature. Sometimes just walking and just kind of venting out your thoughts, just kind of detoxing. And if anybody along the way says, "Who are you talking to?" just say, "Somebody that's smart and good looking." The other thing is this, and this has helped me a lot, is I think it's good to have a fun hobby. Obviously, you see me in my art studio. I'm painting all day today, and it's a de-stress for me. I paint to de-stress, to just have a moment to find that best attitude, so I am my best person in my relationships and for myself. So I think if you can find a fun hobby, I call it a positive, mild distraction, I think that helps reduce stress a lot. But those are the two ideas that I always suggest to people.
Good. Well, thank you, Sam. Two great tips to leave us with today. Thank you for your time. We're looking forward to having you with us in January in beautiful Savannah.
Thank you so much, Bart. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you again now. So, hey, folks, remember, if you'd like to learn more about Sam's amazing story and how attitude really does change everything, Sam's going to be our keynote speaker at the Bowling Summit in Savannah, Georgia this January. Sam's inspirational message, Attitude Changes Everything, will be taking place on Tuesday, January 17th, 10:30 in the morning, and you are not going to want to miss it. So as we wrap up another edition of the Bowling University Profit Break, remember that when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next time for another great episode. Now, if you have any questions about today's show or would like additional information, you can reach us anytime at education@bpaa.com. Also, you and your team can watch any previous episodes 24/7 by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. The Profit Break is available when you want it, and we have new episodes premiering every month. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.